Time for Rockin Company's Rockin CU, making Colorado beautiful with natural stone construction for 5 decades. Rockin Company, rockinco.com. Zadie's Deli, hitting it out of the park. I was there twice this week at breakfast there yesterday. Great sandwiches with homemade stuffed corned beef, the other deli treats. Free parking front and back at 121 Adams Street. And Framed to Art. Framers to the pros, framers to all of the big colleges here in town, as well as so many Broncos. They were voted best framer. 4 different community papers took a poll, did a best of. The community papers in Englewood, Littleton, Centennial, and Lone Tree last week, and they all voted Framed Art, 3065 Broadway, Brian Hart, as the best framer in those communities. And now we welcome in the beat writer for the Buffs, for BuffZone, BuffZone.com, and the Boulder Daily Camera. Follow him on Twitter at Brian Howell 33. And good morning, Brian.
Good morning. How are you guys?
I'm peachy. I don't know about Clark.
Yeah, Kiz is still trying to recover from seeing Neil Diamond rocking out last night. It was a little bit much for Kiz.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
No, I could see that. That'd be a lot for anybody, really.
Well, Brian. I was reminded by Mr. Diamond again last night. These are words to live by, and Mr. Diamond wrote them. Money talks. It don't sing or dance, and it don't walk. And if you just put that over your door every day.
Just a reminder as you get up every day. I like that.
That's right.
That's why you have a limo pick you up, because money don't walk.
That's right.
I get it, Kiz. You're staying in shape with the dialing the phone.
How about them Buffs? What you at?
So my question for you is breakthrough season for the Buffs, Brian. Last year, everyone covering the team and rooting for the team enjoyed the end of a long drought. Is this actually, though, because last year was not expected, is this Mike McIntyre's most important preseason camp?
I would say no. I think last year was, just because I think that even though it was unexpected, I think that it was pretty well believed that he had to have a good season last year or else he wouldn't have this preseason camp. So I think that last year was probably a bigger deal. But I think this year is a big one because CU's got to prove that wasn't just a one-year thing, that they had a whole bunch of great senior leaders and caught everything right. I mean, they hit some fortunate things in the Pac-12 with, like, Josh Rosen being hurt and Stanford being a little down, things like that, Oregon being down. So they have to prove that was not a fluke and that this is something that they're back for the long haul. And so I think it's big in that regard. But I would say last year was a little bit bigger.
I saw the theory presented that you mentioned their great senior leadership and their great senior talent a year ago. And it's been documented that McIntyre and the staff is doing, Chavarini and the gang is doing a very good job of recruiting. But the theory I heard is that right now the upperclassmen on this team aren't quite of the talent level that the youngsters are on this team, and that presents the potential for a bit of a dip this year. What's your view on that? Is that sound? Is that hogwash? Is it somewhere in between?
Well, I would say that the upper-class talent coming out of high school did not match what the younger guys have coming out of high school. So, but I think that there's a lot of talent in the upperclassmen. I mean, you look at Phillip Lindsay, all those wide receivers. I mean, some publications have CU as the second-best wide receiver core in the country, and it's because of those seniors and juniors. So there's a lot of talent there. I think there's some good talent in the secondary. Isaiah Oliver might be the best player on this team, and he's a junior. Derek McCartney. So I think there's some very good talent, but I think coming out of high school, they've got better recruits coming in than this upper class. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I think the younger guys were more highly thought of coming out of high school, but I think that these older guys have really developed pretty well, and that there's plenty of talent there that they can still keep this going.
And I'd say the offensive line has some of those upper class talents as well.
Most definitely, and this might be the best offensive line they've had in almost a decade.
And that is the reason for any optimism at all that I have with a tough road to hoe this year, having lost so much leadership, veteran quarterback, et cetera, et cetera. Let's talk about the talent. Here's a question for you. A bunch of buffs are on preseason watch lists. On the Horning Award, most versatile is George Frazier. Shea Fields, Devin Ross have been named as wide receivers to the Biletnikoff Award watch list. Derek McCartney makes the community watch list, the Werfel Trophy, and the Lott Impact Trophy, Integrity, Maturity, Performance, Academics, Community, and Tenacity. And tailback Philip Lindsay is named to the Doak Walker Award list and the Maxwell watch list. Who has the best chance to win of all those guys, and who would you like to see win?
I think the guy with the best chance is Derek McCartney because of his community. He's really well thought of as, in the community for things he does as far as service, and he's an exceptional student. Plus, he plays well. So I think he's got the best shot. Those other guys are very good players, but I don't see a Biletnikoff winner coming out of here just because I think they'll spread the ball around so much. And usually guys like that are going to win that award, like a James Washington from Oklahoma State that's going to put up monster numbers. Running back Philip Lindsay could have a great year, but it's typically 2,000-yard rushers that win that, and I don't see him having a 2,000-yard season. So I would probably put it at with Derek McCartney winning one of those community awards.
I agree with you. I think McCartney has the best chance. If anybody could win for me, it would be Lindsay.
Oh, well,
yeah, I would agree. Lindsay or Shea Fields as well. I mean, I would probably put him because I think he's underrated nationally as a receiver because the ball gets spread around so much. I think Shea Fields is a very good receiver. I'd love to see him win that award as well. But Lindsay probably sentimentally, I mean, he's one of my favorite guys on the team, so I'd love to see him win one of those awards.
You say quite correctly that anymore if you're running back in college football and you want to win a big award, you better push 2,000 yards rushing. What is a fair number for Philip Lindsay this year? What's a realistic expectation for how many yards he can gain?
Well, I think probably about 1,200, 1,300 because I don't think they're going to run. They'll run a lot, but I think they're going to rely on Steven Montez's arm more than they did Cephos. So I think 1,200 or 1,300 yards. But he caught, including the bowl game, 53 passes last year. So if he can, I think he'll probably catch 35, 40 passes again and have another 300-400 yards receiving. So together, I think that he could have 1,700, 1,800 yards in total offense. Because
their defense, my expectation, at least with their defense, is that it won't be quite as good as it was a year ago. Does that change the way they play on the offensive side? Do they up the tempo, or do they approach things the same way they did a year ago?
I think they'll approach it the same way because I think they want to have the up tempo anyway, right, which they had pretty well early in the season last year, and they sort of slowed it down a little bit when teams started catching up to them a little bit with their offense. But I think they'll still go with the up tempo. I don't think their defense will be as good as last year either, but I still think it'll be solid. But offensively, I think they're going to be very explosive. I don't think it'll change the way they play, but I think that their offense can make up for some of those deficiencies they're going to have on defense.
Okay, let me twist it a little bit.
Okay.
I think, I know they came out up-tempo the beginning of last season. My impression was, as the season went on and they knew how good their defense was, they leaned on that defense a little harder, and they also, my impression was, tried to protect Cepho more because they didn't want him to break into 17 pieces. So I think they got away from that. Was that to their detriment, or was that the smart thing to do? And I'm getting the impression you think with Montez we'll see more up-tempo.
Yeah, I think we'll see more up-tempo. I think last year they kind of did what they felt was the best thing to do for them. I think it was the smart thing to do in that regard. And I think that, I don't think they tried to protect Cepho because he was running the ball 25 times and running it up the gut and getting pounded a lot. But I just think we'll see Montez throwing more than we did with Cepho last year.
Brian, before we say goodbye, let's tell everybody there's a fundraiser in memory of Rashaan Salam. This show supports the Shaka Franklin Foundation. Their work to prevent youth suicide. But there's a chance to impact that cause tonight. $25 for adults, $10 for kids at the Boulder Country Day School from 3 to 7 p.m. And you get a Pasta J dinner besides, Brian.
Well, that sounds good to me. I'm there.
All right. A benefit in memory of Rashaan Salam is always a good idea.